Hello everyone. In this video I will talk a lot about the mechanics of SWTOR Season 6. As of writing this, there is a week left to complete it, but I'm sure this video will stay relevant for the next season too. To start off, I want to go over the basics of galactic seasons. This is where you can find galactic seasons. The seasons is free for everyone and has one free and one subscriber track. You have 20 weeks or 140 days to unlock the 100 levels. Each level consists of 8 points for a total of 800 points. To work on it, you fulfill season objectives found here. Each week you can complete 7 of these objectives. You have the option to choose these from a list of 4 weekly objectives, each worth 12 points, and 7 objectives, each worth 8 points. In addition, you can gain 2 points for achieving 25,000 conquest points each day, and 8 points for logging in at least 4 times a week. Alright, that's a lot of info, though most of this is already known. Let's look at objectives before we go a layer deeper. A lot of the objectives are just straight up PvP. These are only worth doing if you like PvP and happen to play on a PvP active server. Next, there are group activities. Most of these require you to either be in an active guild that plans these, or to be done on the day of reset. On lower population servers like APAC or the French server, some of these might not be played at all. Also, if you wonder why no one wants to play Uprisings with you, it's because Uprisings are repackaged, neglected content. They play on existing maps and drop old, useless gear. As a note here, some group activities can be done alone. You can kill 25 elite guards alone if you have a great healing companion. It just takes a long time to do. Most flashpoints can also be done in story, as seen here. There is no reason to not skip. No, the story does not get any better by doing it with annoyed strangers in a group. Lastly, there are solo missions, and I will take a closer look at some of these. Daily areas require you to own the content and get repetitive fast. The 8 mission plus 100 kills objective in X part of the galaxy in practice just means doing heroic missions. Be aware, bonus missions count double, so always do these. I will explain the blueprint fragment objective later, and 200k conquest is just self-explanatory. Spaceship missions are split into 2 parts. Heroic spaceship missions are dead content and way too hard. There's also very little guides on how to do these. Counter to that are the non-heroic spaceship missions that literally play themselves. Lastly, there is an objective to play 15 missions on X class. This is 3 points if it is class you play. If it's not a class you play, you need to make a new character. Now listen closely. Never pick Repside. It takes you 20 minutes to do 15 missions on a fresh level 1 Imperial agent. For a trooper, it takes over an hour. No, I don't care if you main Repside. If you choose Repside for this objective, you are wasting your time. Both Ord Mantell and Tython are a lot bigger than Hutter and Caravan. It's not like you're going to keep the character anyway. They get deleted after the 15 missions are done. The devs of course could nerf this, just like they nerfed and removed every other part of the game that used to be fun. Remember at the start of 7.0 how they removed half our abilities and just said, oh, don't worry, we are reworking combat styles, this is just temporary. Yeah, that was 2 years ago now. I still need to choose between being able to move at all, being able to reflect damage, or having a hard stun, all 3 of which I had before. As a result, fighting Valkorion and Kotet is really fucking difficult. Alright, one more thing about seasons itself before we move on. Seasons are active per server. On the subscriber reward track, there are in total 2000 cartel coins. This means a dedicated player could farm season objectives on all 6 servers and gain 12,000 cartel coins every season. And that's exactly what I did. Is this worth it? Hell no. Absolutely not. Well, maybe if you're natively switching between like 2 servers, but not on all 6. At some point there's nothing left on the cartel market you want, so your money just piles up. Ask SWTOR about that. Anyway, let's look at achievements. There are 5 worthless achievements for unlocking levels 1 through 100. If you play 20 weeks and log in 4 times a week, this is easily achieved by doing 3 to 4 objectives every week. The next achievement is for completing 100 objectives during the seasons. Quite tough to do this in 140 days. You will need to do on average 5 objectives every week for 20 weeks. Next, I'm gonna jump down here and just say, yes, there are some achievements for completing this story. The Galactic season stories are not that great, but they don't have to be. Above the story mission completion achievements is the season highlight. This decoration. Playing the game, you have encountered this absolutely everywhere, and I desperately want it. What do I need to do for it? Well, all of the above, including this last achievement I haven't talked about yet. Collect 1,500 blueprint fragments. This achievement solves the problem by creating a bigger one. To talk about why it exists, I'll go back to last season. Last season we find in its place an achievement to reach legendary reputation rank. However, you need to reach this rank while the season is running. Getting legendary reputation after the season is past does nothing. I got screwed by this. In order to gain legendary rank, you need to gain 70,000 reputation. However, your reputation gain is capped at 5,000 reputation every week. This means if you are halfway through the season and you have not earned 20,000 reputation, you are incapable of getting this achievement. Ever. This is what I would call a dick move. Luckily, the devs working on seasons found this issue after the 5th consecutive season and fixed it by introducing a new problem. Instead of collecting reputation, you are now collecting grey worthless items. Let's look a little closer at these blueprint fragments. Remember, our goal is 1,500 of these. Starting off, there are 130 blueprint fragments on the reward track. You gain 8 fragments for completing a 12-point objective and 5 fragments for completing 8-point objectives. The latter are also a lot easier to do, leading to the average to be about 6 fragments per objective. 100 objectives means 600 fragments, 730 in total. When you complete the daily conquest objective of 25k, you also gain 1 fragment. While there are 140 days, it's quite unlikely you will achieve it every day for 20 weeks. I'm going to use half of that, 70. For me it was less than that, but for others it could be more. Total now stands at 800 out of 1500. Now where to get the remaining 700 fragments from? On the gain 20 blueprint fragments objective, it details a bunch of ways to get more. Flash points gain you 1 to 2. At an average of 1.5, that's 467 flash points, or 23 a week. Uprisings 1 to 3, average 2, that's 350 or 18 a week. Operations 8 players, 6 to 9, average 7.5, that's 93 or about 5 operations per week. Keep in mind, since I'm calculating with the average, a third of all operations presumably are run in nightmare mode. Operation 16 players, 7 to 12, average 9.5, that's 74 or 4 16-player operations a week. Back down here in reality, you are lucky to run 1 16-player operation within those 20 weeks. Since some of the objectives are running flashpoints, uprisings, or operations, you will undoubtedly gain a small amount of fragments from these sources. However, it will not reward anywhere near the amount required, since a lot of the objectives, like doing PvP or killing world bosses, gain you nothing. It's likely you will come up short. Are there alternative sources? Well, at the very bottom of the objective it tells you can find fragments outside of the listed activities in regular mob loot. Looking online you can discover you get about 10 of these an hour that way. Alternatively, you could look for Java on the fleet. I did that, and it's a waste of your time. The Java sells you booster boxes, yes, the same ones you get from the World War track, for 500 purple Java junk. On newer servers like APEC, you might not have 500 purple Java junk in total. So it's impossible, isn't it? Well, not quite. Those boosters look exactly like the ones given out last season. And last season, they were absolutely useless. You didn't gain any more tokens you could exchange for a reputation by using these boosters. However, this season, it turns out they actually work. However, remember, these only work in content not listed above. They do nothing in operations, uprisings, and flashpoints. They are also useless in PvP since you can't loot other players. You also only have 60 real-time minutes with each booster. Higher level enemies and elite bosses do not have a higher drop chance than low level common enemies. So what you want to do is kill as many enemies as fast as possible while the booster is active. For this to work, it would be beneficial to kill enemies that are lower HP, not elite, and have a high respawn rate. Now where could you find lots of low enemies close together that respawn fast? The starter planets. So you go to Hütte and farm the same area repeatedly for blueprint fragments. High spawn rate, low HP, instant killed, altar boredom. The worst part is, this is not a bug. This is the intended way to do this. You gain about 80 fragments an hour. Farm those for 8 to 10 hours and voila, 1,500 blueprint fragments. Still beats doing 100 operations or 300 flashpoints. This is a low point for SWTOR. I would presume Seasons is supposed to direct players to content they should play more. Instead, it directs you to farming worthless enemies for worthless trash. The devs made the rules here. They could have made bosses drop these fragments more frequently. Or they could have allowed the use of these boosters in flashpoints or operations. But they didn't. They chose for it to be this way. Well, at least it can't get worse than this, right? Wrong! The devs disagree and promptly turned Hütte from a charming place you don't want to live in into a pseudo-industrial war zone straight out of Fallout. It doesn't look like these trees grew here. It looks like someone dropped countless bombs and the dust hasn't settled yet. I can see the individual textures of leaves. I can tell exactly where a rock is or isn't because the gravel texture of the ground was removed. Whatever dev decided it was a good idea to replace the entire ground with Cassin's Landing's unfinished base texture needs to be put against the wall and shot with a water gun filled with piss. And don't get me started on how half the ground texture is now metal instead of cobblestone, or why the plating outside the cantina is now continuative metal made of Republic spaceship corridor, or why the sun has to be bigger than Nar Shaddaa. At least they had the decency to patch in some more leaves 2 weeks later to make it look more like an actual swamp. Anyway, farming on Hütte might not just be boring to do, but also aggravating for the reasons mentioned. But while I sit here farming worthless trash from worthless enemies for hours at a time, I can't help but reflect on Star Wars and how we got here. How much needed to go wrong for this to become what I'm doing in this game, and what the future holds. Star Wars is not going away. There have been people saying SWTOR is dying all the way from launch up to now, and they all have been wrong about it. Star Wars is not dying, but I kind of wish it was. I want to remember Star Wars The Old Republic for the stories I played, through the charm of its planets. Instead, it's devolving into a content mill that just repeats the same planets back at you. Hey, remember when you played Manan? Remember Ord Mantell? Remember Hatta? No, you can't just play a new character. We changed the planet so you can't experience them again. As of right now, Tython is the only starter planet they haven't mutilated yet. Are they going to put spaceship parts into the ruins of Kalat to show how old it is? Are they going to remove all the greenery because it looks too good? Are they going to replace all the rock faces with the same nondescript unfinished texture? Put your bets into the comments, we are bound to find out. The galactic seasons will also continue. Got to keep all the players playing. Though I have heard from a lot of players they would, in quotes, skip this one because there wasn't anything on there they were interested in. And then they played it anyway, cause what else are you going to do? What I think this game could need is a way to play older versions. Apex show how high the demand for an older Star Wars is, with everyone and their mother playing up until character transfer opened and the influx of credits immediately ruined the market. And I'm not going to say like, oh, how could they? Cause I know I am part of the problem. I too used the free transfers to put characters from every other server on Apex. I did it for the Alliance Crate armor sets. Combining all the armor pieces I got on 5 servers led me to unlock 28 out of 40 armor sets in Legacy. And in the process I also took 15 mil per character with me. I do still have the money. I didn't immediately spend it like some others did, but that doesn't change the fact I'm just another whale now. Anyway, Apex showed a SWTOR server that is completely separate and runs on older versions can work. Personally, my favorite version is 6.2. Fuck playing 2 combat styles at once. I want the old character creator back. I want my abilities back. I want to grind operations for gear, not farm worthless enemies on a worthless planet. A 1.0 server with the old unpatched choose your own combat skills would also be great. Pretty much any version is better than what we have right now.